Once again, we turned back the clocks and got the dancing shoes out. Welcome to the 50s weekend and welcome to In the Loop. Well, hello and welcome to our first ever 50s weekend here at the Watercress line. Now, if you did join us last weekend, you'd have been treated to live music, dancing, singing, and of course some beautiful vintage vehicles and trade stalls. So, without further ado, let's head up the line and see what we can find. Well, welcome to Rockley, and as soon as you come in here, you see a fantastic display of vintage vehicles, and to talk about one of them is Ash. Thanks so much for talking to us. So, what have you brought with you today?
Thanks very much for having us, first of all. This is a highly modified 1952 Ford Prefect. Originally it was a big four-door car with a proper bonnet and wings and everything, but all of that had rotted away, so the body is a modern replica, but everything else on it is from 1952 or thereabouts. It's a really small, tiny 1175cc engine, but it's supercharged, which gives it a little bit more go. We do have a bonnet for it sometimes, but
I was going to say, so I'm guessing you don't get much problem with overheating in this scenario.
The rain is the biggest problem. It gets like into the electrics, but forecast was good today.
Oh,
so,
fair enough.
We're fine. Yeah.
So you're saying this is your first proper visit to the railway in the rainy days, isn't it?
Yeah. We've been up a few times just as a place to drive out, but this is the first proper weekend that we've done, and it's been fantastic.
Especially with the roads around here, this must be absolutely just fantastic to play on.
Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah, you've got the choice of kind of, as we were rushing this morning, the A31, or sometimes we take the back roads back to Alton, but yeah, they are good fun.
Ash, thank you so much.
Perfect. Super.
We'll crack on with the day.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much.
As a bonus fun fact, our Ivet tank here was built in 1952, so our little contribution to 50s weekend, along with everything else. Now, I do have to admit, I do love talking to vintage vehicle owners because they're just so passionate about what essentially are their babies. A lot of them have put so much effort into restoring and getting them back to working order, and they're just a joy to talk to. If you came down to this event or our vintage vehicle rally, then you would have witnessed this firsthand. And if you haven't been to this event or vintage vehicle rally, make sure you come next time. Anyway, before we go any further, since there's a lot of live music and dancing, I think that's a good enough excuse for a quick intermission. Who doesn't love a bit of awesome music? Anyway, back to the railways. Now, one of the things the 50s period was known for was holiday trains. Now, these were summer excursions to take holiday makers on holiday. One you may have heard of is the Atlantic Coast Express. This ran from Waterloo down to Devon, and it started off as a really long train hauled by a bullied Pacific, and once it got to Exeter, they started cutting off coaches for various destinations. So it essentially ended up, potentially, as having a bullied Pacific capable of hauling a fair bit, hauling one coach by the time it got to its destination, and then it would do the reverse on the way back. Another one is the Royal Wessex that ran from Waterloo to Swanage, and the Pines Express. Now, while not strictly a holiday special in the sense that it was a regular timetable train, for the holiday period they did beef up the stock, occasionally running an extra service, putting more coaches on, and to cope with the extra load, they would normally put a 7F or something else on the front of it to make it even more interesting. Now, aside from the 50s weekend in general, this weekend saw the return of the Bar Now or Rat service, and also our new Countryman running. Driver and fireman are now waving at me. Anyway, the Countryman remains pretty unchanged. Our real L-train, we've had to jazz it up a little bit due to current regulations. So instead of having the bar on the train and doing non-stop running, or as close as we can, it's now going to be mainly based at Ropley. So you're going to get a train ride, a break at Ropley a couple of times, where you can get some beer, cider and other refreshments, and then track on again, and then have another layover later on. Now, because it's not really the Rat as it were, we've slightly changed the name to Bar Now. Beer at Ropley now on the Watercress line. The T is silent. Anyway, onwards with the day.
Okay, there you go, young man.
Oh, lovely.
Okay.
Like I'm going to say no to an ice cream, but since we're here, you were saying there was essentially a war of the chimes with ice cream, wasn't there?
Absolutely. In the 1970s, there were so many ice cream vans, particularly up north, that actually getting a pitch, a route, was very valuable to people. So the ice cream van that this guy had, that was up in Manchester, he would go round and he would play his Twinkle Twinkle Little Star chime, and the children would come out. But then the competitors would borrow the chime, come out 5 minutes before he was due to come round that particular street, and get all the customed. So he was very devious, and he was very savvy. So as it's still a clockwork halve-in chime, he took the teeth out, rearranged the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star chime, and created his own version of it, so the children weren't fooled when the competitors came round.
That is genius. I would never have thought about the war will get to that extreme.
Absolutely.
Well, in fact, the 50s vehicle, it's got the original Mr. Whipping machine as well, haven't
It has. We've got this Carpiagiani machine here, which we're not using today, but we generally do. And it was first put on the van when they realised that they could use the technology of a clutch from the engine to drive the shaft for the machine, and it produced your whipped ice cream, which was revolutionary at the time. Before, it was just frozen freezers at the back.
Oh, it's interesting. It's a
Yeah.
dynamo working, essentially.
Absolutely.
I say the ice cream is brilliant. You were saying this is not just...
No,
it's going to sound very M&S, but it's not just any ice cream.
It's not just any ice cream. No, we went to an ice cream expo in Harrogate to choose which ice creams we were going to sell, and we came across this group of co-op group of farmers from Jersey, and they were marketing their own mix, their own recipe, and it all comes from their own herds where they get the double cream and the milk. And they've produced their own type of mix for the whipped ice cream, which we chose because it's just far and above the best. A lot more expensive, but a lot more luxurious.
It does taste brilliant. I suppose this the one everyone's going to want to ask. Can anyone go to these expos? It sounds like
Yeah, you have to have an entry ticket.
Oh, what a shame. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. It's been fantastic.
It was
and
lovely.
I hope you enjoy this weekend, guys, if you did come along. And we'll see you next time.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. Put your glad rags on, join me, hon. We'll have some fun when the clock strikes 1. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. We're gonna rock, rock, rock till broad daylight. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. When the clock strikes 2,